So I was a long-standing telecoms engineer, right? That was my proper job, obviously, for many years, right? So my full-time, completely accidental. It was a summer job that went very badly. So like I ended up like, I used to work in a mobile phone shop. So when I came out, I'll keep going backwards. When I came out of university, I was disgraced. I'm going backwards again. So I was disgraced.
That's happened a few times in your life.
It has.
Yeah.
Which
disgrace are we talking about?
There was 2 disgraces at university. My first disgrace was failing my first year and having to retake it. And then my second...
if that's a disgrace, then that's how we're joined in our bond.
Did you do the same thing?
Yeah.
You failed your first year at uni?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I failed my third, and then I had to redo it, and then they went, oh, I guess you got a degree, just about.
Oh, well.
It was really embarrassing.
Okay.
But they did this thing where if you got, and I think universities do that, where they really want to keep you on board because they're a business. And also they want to keep their grades up. So I got a third, but like bad, like really bad third. And then they went, do you want a 2-2? Because you got like, I went, yeah, that'd be good. And then they just gave me that.
Amazing.
So I don't really know how it happened.
So
my mum was like,
you got upgraded.
I got upgraded to a 2-2. But yeah, I don't get it. But yeah, I failed my first year. The only reason I didn't fail I did 4 years at uni. Yeah. The only reason I didn't fail my third year is because that was just because you had to turn up every day to work. And that's something I obviously did. To not fail. But
I got you a 2-2.
I enjoyed that.
Well, I got onto, let me go back a bit as well.
So you were disgraced. We figured out you weren't disgraced.
We figured out I wasn't disgraced because that...
What course were you doing at uni? I don't actually know.
Environmental
If we were doing
science.
Mr. and Mrs. right now,
what
the fuck?
Sorry.
You did environmental science.
I gave it away too quickly. I thought you were going to play, weren't you? I was doing environmental science. Now, let me go back a little bit, right?
Yeah,
so
that's the disgrace, by the way.
Hands up.
Not that you failed it. But
like I ended up doing environmental science just by accident.
Jeez, I did not know that about you.
Well, I didn't get good A levels, so I ended up getting very mediocre GCSEs. I went to West London.
Oh god, that's
suburban secondary school, comprehensive. Nobody really gave a shit about anyone.
What A levels did you do?
I chose art, English, and geography. Art because I thought I was good at art. English because I can speak English, and I thought that had something to do with it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That seems a bit too far for you.
I wouldn't disagree with you. And then there was geography, which I've already said 2 minutes ago, but I forgot. But geography I'd done mainly because I liked the teacher, and I didn't know what else to do. Art, I thought was my thing. I thought I was going to be an artist. Plus, I'd already established myself as the best rock and roll guitar player in my class.
Yeah.
So I thought I was going to be a rock and roll guitarist at that point. And then, but I genuinely thought I've got a good hand at art. I'm probably going to go and do art in some form, some way. And then I ended up
doing environmental science.
I ended up in the sixth form at school, and it was great. It was the first time I kind of enjoyed school. Yeah. Because previous to then,
you had sixth form as well. That's cool.
Yes.
A lot of people did college, and I think college disconnects you from schoolmates. And it's like university life.
And that's usually a good thing. Yeah, exactly. And for example, my missus loves her college days, and it was her first kind of she talks about it fondly as her first kind of, mock being an adult.
I knew Jan went to college.
Yeah,
she's one of those college girls, isn't she?
She is a college girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll probably guess.
Sixth form is a bit more homely, isn't it?
Sixth form is like we're allowed to wear our own clothes.
Yes.
At school.
Oh, you had that as well. Yeah, we had exactly the same. So did you have a different block? Like almost. We had mobiles.
Yeah, we did. We didn't have a block. We had like an upstairs. So
did you have a common room?
Yeah, we had a common.
Yeah, wow.
So
I thought
this
that was a Norfolk thing.
No. It's any kind of suburbia without any hopes and dreams in the actual school.
True.
They literally let's give them a common room.
Yeah.
And that's so we had that. So
it's because you're becoming an adult, right? So you've got to have that space.
I think it's that sense of kind of club that they want. They want everyone to feel a bit exclusive.
Yeah,
and kind of say, hey, you're coming of age. You guys are at the top of the school. So even our block was just one level.
And it's something, and as well for kids, like if because we didn't have like drug dealers and that to aspire to.
Drug dealers,
yeah. You couldn't aspire to that, so you had to aspire to be that person in the school.
Who could wear their own clothes instead of a school uniform.
Great. I want to do that one day, and that means that I've got to learn. So it's actually a really clever, smart idea.
It's stealth marketing.
Yeah.
Just to get people to stay at the school. It worked for me. And for me, it was really nice, because I didn't generally have a good time at school. Like, I was always... you won't believe this, but I was not in the cool set at school, right?
Really?
Yeah, for reals. Like, I was... But I had...
What set were you in? Like, how would you, if you were to now dissect your, like, being an adult Prit, looking at coming of age Prit, what kind of group you were in?
I think we all know what set I was in.
What set were you in?
No, well, the set that I was in was immigrant brown kid.
Right.
But having said that, everyone at my school was in that set because it was pretty much all immigrant brown kids. It certainly is now, right?
Yeah, but I'm going to put a wager on the fact that Stuart wasn't an immigrant brown kid.
Which Stuart?
Stuart, right? Who's your guy? Who's the guy who's the skateboarder kids?
Stephen Cording.
Stephen Cording, sorry.
No, okay. So let me pull that back. So the area I grew up in was Hayes in West London, and that's very much now is kind of like an extension of Southall. Southall's known as Little India.
Yeah.
Which is one of the pockets of the immigrant community of kind of Indians kind of congregate to and lived in. My parents
because of Heathrow Airport.
Maybe it's to do with
that's where it comes from. I was watching some stuff on it, and actually people came in that worked to the airport, and then they actually all settled around there because there was a lot of work at Heathrow.
Yeah, okay.
And
makes sense. And my mum worked at Heathrow.
Yeah. There we go.
Exactly. So my parents came over from Kenya in the 70s. Yeah. So they were originally Indian and they settled in Kenya. There was a big around the 60s and 70s.
Man. Fuck, I really want to go there.
They really loved it. They've got real fond, idyllic memories of Nairobi at that time of life. And back then it was a lot easier to get around than it is now. Like, I suppose that, the thing with these Commonwealth countries were and at that time, industries were kind of, infrastructure was being built, like the kind of,
hopes and dreams.
The British Empire was still going around just like doing its thing. And, maybe in more of a kind of civilized veneer, but like they were dishing out passports to anyone who any of those colonial countries. And my mum and dad were kind of benefactors of those passports being dished around and through their families, they independently, but respectively ended up in Kenya and they were in Nairobi. And that's where they were introduced to each other and that's where they got married. Oh, and very soon after that, they came over to the UK in 1970. So they were the first, when my dad, at the time my dad was the only kind of breadwinner, and back then it was kind of like, that was in the days when one of you could have a job and be a breadwinner and actually genuinely put money down on the house and pay for your groceries, right? Yeah. So he was about
in London.
Even though it was in suburbia West London, it was still in London. Right?
Yeah, man. Yeah,
so it was quite amazing. And then my dad he worked in a bank in Kenya, and so when he got a job as a bank clerk before he landed over here, and he was the first turbaned Sikh man that was bank employed. Full stop.
Shut up! That's landmark.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And
how did he swing that? Has he still got the gun? Or
token brown boy. I don't know. I think
No, but this was pre being like, this is pre.
this was pre
We've got
kind
to
of representation.
employ. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it existed back then. You don't. You who
Yeah,
knows?
that's true. Yeah.
I know one thing.
Maybe he's just a good fucking bank clerk.
Or
that's what I hope for in my life. Yeah.
I mean, I can't see it. Like I can see it actually because he's a wonderful man to talk to. So I can just imagine his chatter at the counter.
Yeah, I bet.
But he was. One of the things my dad said actually was he was a great hockey player in his younger days, and so he used to end up. He used to play for the Sikh Union in Nairobi, and they were apparently a really good club. Like they were quite a fierce club, and in his time, and he was just one of the well-regarded players there. And when he came over to the UK, obviously in a couple of years, he had the responsibilities of this family. Like my sister was born, I think it was around probably before I was born. But I remember he was saying it was obviously this big deal because he was this first brown guy with a turban who was employed by NatWest Bank, and like back then I think the company photo was that everyone together was 75 people,
and he was in the middle, like he's here,
on the side, bringing in some poppadoms. Like he ended up, and then someone kind of found out he was a hockey player. And back then there was obviously sports and socials, of course, and all these corporations, and they were like, okay, can you come and play hockey with us? You can play hockey. And I think they were like super impressed because he was just like, oh wow, you're a real hockey player. And then they got really excited about it, and they were like, okay, NatWest is playing blah blah blah. And I remember him telling me the story, and he told me this quite recently actually. He told me this like pretty much about 5 or 6 years ago, and it was one of those things when like your father.
Did he actually like fill up with some pride?
No, it's the opposite. Like it really made me learn something. He doesn't give a puck. He made me. It was one of those things where your father tells you something, and you know your father because like he's been with you all your life. But then it just made me think, really, like that makes me look at you a bit differently because like he ended up being he played hockey for them and got invited to one match, and he said he was relatively new to the country. My elder sister, she was a little baby and mum was at home, and it was kind of after a work day, and he got given the address, and he got into, I think he had a Volkswagen Beetle back then. He had a super cool car. But he ended up driving down.
He said, way cooler than you are.
He's way cooler than me.
Totally.
But he ended up driving down to South London. I think he had to go somewhere like Croydon, and it was the first time he's relatively new in the country. He's trying to kind of get involved with the boys at work. He's gone and smashed his hockey game up, and he said he ended up getting in the car and driving home, and he just got lost on the way home. And he said it just took him hours just to try and find his way back home. And he got home, and he said he got home at some ridiculous time of the night, which he thought was ridiculous. And he was like, oh, fuck that. I'm not doing that again. And that was it. And he's like, and then I thought, no.
What, because of the journey home?
Yeah, and he's just like, oh, I'm not going to play hockey with these guys.
Did he win? As in, like, I know you can't. You know what I mean? Did he
win the game?
Perform
or win a life?
Well?
I think so. Like, I suppose I was just bemused by, like, I was just surprised at how the lack of ambition he displayed of like just going out one night and just kind of like going, that was hard work, fuck that.
Yeah.
And that was it. And it was over. And I don't think he played hockey again. So it was really confusing. I think I remember us driving and telling me that story.
What is that then? Like, he must have ambition.
I think he does. But his ambition's really, he's quite zen-like. He's very simple. Yeah. You met my dad, right?
Yeah. I think actually his ambition is to be a good person, perhaps.
I think so.
Yeah, he's like uber honourable. Like,
yeah, he's super fulfilled. He's a really
yeah.
But
man, I'm jealous of that because how do you become fulfilled?
How do you become fulfilled?
I honestly don't know what would fulfill me.
Do you know what though? Like from the outside, it can seem quite selfish because, like, you know, his he just is content in his own space, in his own mind. The thoughts that he's in are kind of the thoughts he shares with you, and he just really, if he's got any questions, they're pretty simple. They're literally like, have you eaten? What did you eat? And then, how's the missus? What's going on? Did you eat? Are you going to eat before you leave? Literally that. And that'll be the conversations. And they're super sweet, and there's a little concern in there. But then he's pretty much in his own world, and then but he will engage. His whole day is engaged like that. And yeah, it's kind of cool. It's kind of zen. Like what was I talking about with my dad?
I don't know, you're thinking about the dog barking now, aren't you?
I got distracted.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that dog barking.
Why is that dog barking?
Well, the dog barks at anything. Probably it's not very fulfilled, and it's wondering. Actually, hang on. No. I think you were thrown by the dog. I was thrown by the dog because I was thinking, is that being picked up on here?
Should we talk about your dad?
No, don't think so.
The reason I was talking about my dad was because I kept regressing, didn't I? I started with a story about like how I ended up becoming a telecoms engineer, and I kept going backwards.
Actually, there's one thing I want to pick up on, which is everyone at your school, pretty much, you're saying, was Indian or of Indian descent.
Everyone at my school. No, that's not true. At the time I was there, there was a big Indian contingent, but there was a big white working class contingent, and it was pretty much a mix of the two. It was more kind of white working class than it was the Indian immigrant community.
Right.
Well, you can't even call us Indian.
Because mine was middle class white with one Indian chap.
Really?
Who was, and to this day, like, people were going, he's fucking Indian. You know, there was all that fucking 90s racism shit, but actually I think he was Pakistani. Which,
that is
like,
the worst thing.
Abraham Pipidi is, to me, is like...
Excuse me?
Abraham Pipidi was his name.
It's a fucking great name.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, and he had an amazing middle name. He's not Indian. So anyway, he was one of my best mates. And
nice.
Yeah. Very, very well respected. Plays really good cricket now. He's in fact a Labour councillor. Actually, out your way. I need to hook you up with his details. He's a fucking dude. Anyway, Pips, or Pips as he was called to us, and then one Chinese lad called Yuting Chang, who was one of my other best mates, who was called Fishy because his parents owned a fish and chip shop, of course. Which was fucking sick, and still go there when I go back to my mum's. But anyway, so it's the opposite. It was all white. Well, maybe not the opposite entirely, but all white. An Indian chap, Chinese chap, Gregg, because we were all into computers. It's all a bit geeky.
Were you computer set? You were
computer set, but then I also played music, which threw me out a little bit into the cool crew-ish, but not quite cool crew, because the cool crew are into sports and are good looking usually. So yeah, I didn't really fall in there. So I knew about sport, as in like, I know what football is. Disappointed my father in that sense. But when my dad was strong in that way, in the sense of like, he was a teacher at our school. So So that was pretty unique.
What teacher was he?
Business studies, and we covered a load of other shit as well that he absolutely hated doing. But he was the cool teacher because he had the massive Kef hi-fi system in his class. And back then in the early 90s, it was all about the NME tapes. Do you remember?
Yeah.
So it was NME and what's the other one? Melody Maker tapes. He would play those tapes if you were good kids and you did your shit and got on with your work. He'd be like, right, we'll put NME tape on from this week. So that was kind of his encouragement shit. But he also fucking hated racists. And there were quite a few. There's still quite a few. And he can't get in trouble for it now because he's very much turned into dust. But I remember that one day when Pips got absolutely it was disgusting, but it was by the big kids that were scary to when you were like 13 and they were 16 or whatever. It's quite a difference in stature and power and whatnot. But he absolutely destroyed one of those kids in front of the absolute sackable offence. Destroyed. So no, well, half and half. So this kid was just going, saying all this fucking racist shit to Pips, and Pips was like, "Well, you're a dick," that kind of thing. Just giving it kind of half back. So much that and I was like, "Oh, fuck off," go grow up, you cunts. That kind of thing, as you would.
Yeah.
Anyway, my dad came in and someone went, "Can you make anything or whatever?" So my dad walked in, didn't even figure out the facts, booted this chair into the back of this kid's knees. The kid sat down, and my dad grabbed him by the hair and went, "You fucking racist piece of shit. You think that you can get away with this kind of shit, do you? In front of all these people?" And he's like, my dad just threw him off his chair, and this kid ran off like this. And anyway, headmaster comes in. There's a report that you pinned, remember? And my dad was like, "Kids, and did you see anything in here?" They're like, "No, didn't see a thing." It was amazing. And I was like, amazing. "Okay, Dad, you're now on literally the top pedestal of that's how you deal with racists, because usually they are big and they've got guns and they're cunts and they rule America. But actually, don't take shit from them. That was a respect, but also probably a bad judgment on my father's." But that's fucking rock and roll, man. That's a bit of punk
was that 90s days.
Yeah, but he knew he could get away with that.
Yeah,
number one, because he was right, and number two, because kids loved him because he was the cool kid. In terms of teachers.
He definitely sounds like the cool dude.
Yeah, he was, man. Massive respect. Don't know what you think of me right now, but
I think he'd be happy.
It would be interesting. I tell you what he would enjoy is all of the music that I've created. He would love Flower of Zeus. He would love the fact that, all the shit that you and I have created, the shit that I've been involved in terms of music, Roxy music, people in songs and bringing those people in. That's nice.
Yeah, that's a big
deal.
It's
nice. I think it's so far away from what I could have achieved being in Norfolk that.
Well, I think it's really nice. My experience of your father, having never met him, was there was two experiences.
He wouldn't have liked you because you're Indian, if I'm honest.
He sounds a bit screwed, to be honest with you.
He likes the Pakistani kids. It's just,
but we all know the Pakistani.
See, he was like, "Don't even go there, mate."
I remember getting a sense of him at your wedding, which was really nice. And there was you obviously chatted about him in your speech, and that was very beautiful and very moving.
Yeah.
And the other time that I got a real good sense of him was when you and I, probably 3 years ago, went to see Living Colour. At some little pub in Milton Keynes.
Yeah, that was one of the best shows. Do you know what? This is a podcast talking about gigs and shows.
Okay, yeah.
The first ever gig I went to, it's right up there. You probably can't see it on camera, but it's 31st of March, 1993.
That's a picture
the
of
first show I ever went to.
Okay, no. Well, this is it. So this is what I'm saying. This is why I've got a real keen sense of your dad, because I experienced it that night. So when did we go? It was about 3 years ago?
Yeah, it's 3 or 4 years.
So
where was that? Milton Keynes,
we were at Milton Keynes, and they were playing some pub, and it was a good venue. It was a good
best
pub
thing about
venue, wasn't it?
Was watching Living Colour play it and then go, why are we playing?
Why the fuck are we there? It was. I mean,
they even had a tour bus outside that they'd never seen a tour bus.
The car park literally could just about fit the tour bus in. But it was really wonderful because it's not like it's a bad venue. It's a wonderful venue. I can't remember what it's called.
It was really good. It was a really good venue, proper old school rock club.
And what would you say? It's like a 250 capacity.
Yeah, it was really good.
It was
a block square, really decent sound.
But you'd expect a lot more for obviously Living Colour because they're legends. But we ended up going there because you wanted to go to see Living Colour. You missed out on the London gigs.
Where were they playing in London though? It wasn't big.
I can't remember.
No, maybe it was.
Was it the last days of the story or something? No, it wasn't that.
No, it wasn't that long ago.
You missed out on the you missed out on the London gig, and then you were like,
do
you want to go?
Do you know what? They weren't playing London, they were playing Reading. They were playing like all these odd gigs.
Yeah. But like that was definitely, they probably didn't know that their booking agent had sorted that little venue out.
They had no idea.
And we only went because that was what was available, and then you kind of reasoned it out with me and said, are you happy driving? I'll buy the tickets. And I'm like, yeah, it'd be fun. And then we ended up going there. We were surprised at how small the venue was.
And how cool it was. And the people were lovely, man.
Everyone was great.
Yeah,
and then they were playing like amazing tunes in the bar. There was Kaya's blaring out.
Yeah, it was.
Like it was a really good memory. Of it. Shit, what does it start with? It starts with a C.
Yeah.
Really, and it's probably a famous venue place in Milton Keynes. Apologies.
It was so fun. And the fact that Living Colour played in Milton Keynes.
Well, this is it, because I remember they walked onto the stage, and I remember them kind of like eyeing up the audience and seeing the whites of their eyes because we were that.
Do you know what? I bet they think about that gig still because
enjoyed it
because
we loved it.
No, that taken them back to their roots a little bit. Like they must have done. Like I would enjoy playing small. Like not that I've really got a choice, but you know what I mean. I would if I was that. Experienced, had written that many songs, had that kind of gravitas about me, I would still love going back to those smaller shows and playing to 250 people. You see them. Yeah. Like, it's a proper different experience.
No, it was definitely a different experience. It was nice. It was a small show. I could see Vernon Reid was one of my heroes when I was 16. And it was wonderful just seeing his face just at the end of the room.
He is still my guitar hero. I don't know why.
He's a super cool guitarist. Like I could spend hours talking about him. I won't. But that night was super nice because I remember we ended up going to this gig. We wanted to see Living Colour. The context made it funny because it was in a small club. They were self-aware enough to kind of walk out on the stage and go, "Well, this is a first," and everyone and the audience was self-aware enough to kind of go, "Ha ha ha ha! This is a small venue for you guys, but we're all here." Then that kind of broke the ice straight away, and then they started playing, and we were all. I think they were loving it as much as we were.
Yeah.
Well, I project that they were loving it.
I think they were. I loved it, man.
But you loved it, and you and I were at the back of the room.
Yeah.
And I could see you just reminiscing. That's why it was really beautiful. Good. Yeah. And it was,
I was as well.
And it was really nice. Every time that they play a new track or an old track, and you just remembered it because you told me you were at that first gig that you ever went with.
Yeah.
And your dad took you, and you had a fucked up leg. Right?
Yeah, I broke my leg. So
it was in the past, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I broke my leg. I was 10. Yeah, I think I was 10. And Living Colour were somehow my dad. So we would always play music in the car, and we'd go on a lot of car journeys in the UK and go on holiday or whatnot. But we'd actually embarrassingly, well. It's Gary Glitter that got me into the drums. Fucking still dig those drums, man, because it's fucking genius.
I knew it.
Like groovy as fuck. Anyway, so we would be listening to music, but actually Living Colour was one of those kind of okay, no, these are interesting. And one of the first bands I was like, oh no, I really like that hook. And then they were in True Lies and all that kind of thing. And I was connecting the dots. And then Stain came out. It was the Stain tour that we went on.
Okay.
And I was like, whoa, actually some of the lyrics they sing about are quite interesting, and Bye and Nothingness and all these albums came out. But then Leave It Alone was the big single off that. And they were on The Word, I think it was.
Okay.
And he had an axe in his hand.
Yeah,
he had an axe. And I was
he had goggles on, didn't he?
Yeah, he had goggles on his head. And I was like, shit, man, this is really alternative, but they're fucking cool, and they're black. That was cool for me because I'm from the white territories. So I was like, oh shit, and then it was all about all those individual musicians, and just I don't know. There is not one member of that band that hasn't taught me how to play the drums the way I play my drums in my head. But then my dad was like, oh, do you want to go and see them? I was like, yeah, they're not playing Norwich, but they're playing Cambridge, Corn Exchange.
Okay.
I was like, definitely. Anyway, about, I don't know, a couple of weeks before that happened, I broke my leg or my ankle, I think it was, playing tennis. Badly. Clearly couldn't play tennis very well, so I broke my leg, probably to get out of it. Anyway, and then we turned up to the venue, and we were stood by the mixing desk, because my dad always liked to stand by the mixing desk, because he was like, well, if the guys mixing down there, it's going to sound great. So like, let's go there, and we can stand around there. It's not going to be too bad, whatever. So we got there, and then what we'd always do, and it started from that show, because we were like, we can get stuff, because I'm young and I'm at a gig. This was before they did minimum age of 14, to go to shows. And we would use my age to take
advantage.
Absolutely. So this guy came past and goes, oh, your leg, you're standing there on crutches. And in my head, I'm thinking, I don't care, I'm about to watch a band, that's cool.
Oh, you didn't pretend to be disabled?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't do a Kaiser Soze. No, I was just standing there with crutches, and the guy goes, you can go up there if you want. And I don't know if you know Cambridge Corn Exchange, but it's got like a few balconies.
Okay.
And you can just go and stand there and look down, and you're like, I've got pictures of the show, I'll have to get them for you.
Yeah. And
I remember like so vividly Yellow Drum Kit, Will Calhoun and all this shit. Anyway, second song in, he's like, come on me. So he chucked a pass around me and my dad.
Yeah.
And we're straight up there looking down. And like the best view of the band. It's just incredible. Fast forward about 7 years, I met Paul Rogers from Free up there in that same thing in the Cambridge Corn Exchange. And I was like, oh man, this is where I watch Living Colour. And he's like, who are Living Colour? I was like, you don't know who Living Colour are? And you've got that voice. Trying to educate him, he's still wanker. Still really short, and he was in Queen. Bad Queen.
What? Bad Queen days. Oh yeah, well, I think that's. Yeah. I think that was the.
Lisa got me that anyway for like Christmas last year or the year before last.
Oh, that's a really good present.
Yeah, it's a really good present.
That's nice. Well, this is the thing. Like you and I were standing.
March.
You and I were stood at the back of that room in Milton Keynes watching Living Colour, and you'd had a couple of pints at that point, and you were just in a nice, loose, merry kind of vibe. And I think you even shouted out some banter from the back of the room and stuff like that. You were just you were in good form. But every old track that Living Colour were playing, I remember you just kind of just going, whoa, getting really exuberant, and then you punch me in the arm, and I'd be like, oh motherfucker, that really hurts. But then I just remember thinking, you were just, because you were talking about your dad and you were talking about your first gig, and I can just remember thinking, I can kind of feel like you in the midst of it.
It's amazing.
And then every time you punch me in the arm, I just thought, it's okay, I'm just going to let him, but I don't want to spoil his night. So give me a fucking
sorry, I punched you in the arm.
It's alright, we made it home. It was a difficult drive, but I managed to get there in the M25. It was all good.
Who did you go and see? Like back in 93. What were the shows in 93 that you saw? Or the 90s? Early 90s?
Early 90s, I was into thrash metal, so... I mean, the big one I remember, early 90s, was the Clash of the Titans tour. And that maybe that wasn't even the 90s, that would have been late 80s.
Yeah.
Fuck, that would have been something like 89.
Yeah, it would have been.
No, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's...
Did you see Living Colour?
No, that was the first time I saw Living Colour.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I saw... You
saw Fish?
Fishbone was a bit later. That was kind of when I was about 16, 17.
Yeah,
so that was like 93, 94, probably around that time.
I wish I'd seen Fishbone then.
Fishbone.
Are they good?
Fucking amazing.
Was it at Brixton?
Brixton Academy both times that I saw Fishbone.
Shut up!
It was the best. It was the best. Like, I always feel sad for Fishbone because I just think they never managed to record what they were. They were whoever they managed to get in a room with to produce them. It was all really well executed, but it was never the spirit of what was going on live. And I don't know if maybe even that does that translate onto a record in some way other than the live performance.
It does.
Because I remember their second album. not the second album, but I can't remember what the name of the album is. The one with Sunless Saturday, and there's all these great songs in there. But it's quite hodgepodgey, and you can hear it. But the common thread they've got is they've got these little inserts, like about 4 or 5, within the playlist, and it's them live performance takes of them doing a track. I can't remember either, but like that's the only consistent thing. They're live recordings, and it's kind of like everything else is a hodgepodge, which they were. They played all kinds of different styles, and they were a hodgepodge. I just remember it with an adult head and having a little bit of experience in producing music, I can hear that it wasn't produced correctly for what they were. It was produced, like they hadn't.
They missed it somehow, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean,
when I watched the footage of them in the early 90s, though, shit, they were so good. They were so good, man.
I suppose it was just like there was that craziness going on. There was the other aspect of it was there's 7 of them in the complete lineup.
They're still playing.
And there's that genuine thing of them being a bunch of friends, or they came from the same neighborhood, or whatever, they're a gang, and there's that feeling of I'm watching a collective bunch of people who got together through usually the best bands of when they were kids, and they just got together. And then the other aspect of them was every single one was a big personality. Like it wasn't just like a front person or a couple who or the front person and the guitarist who looked cool and the rest kind of backed it up. Everyone had this real strong personality. And then it was chaotic. It was just fucking chaos and high energy. So this thing felt like a beast. It felt like a circus every time you went and watched Fishbone. And at Brixton Academy, it was great. I remember them coming out and starting with Boning in the Boneyard, which is
oh man, amazing. That's so good.
And just literally no warm up required. I remember probably being 30 seconds into it, and then someone just throwing me up and I'm head rolling, and it was just very exhilarating, and the whole thing was chaos, and it was wonderful. So I really.
But that was what, 96.
That was probably really bad with days. 94. It would have been when I was just sixth form days, the golden times. So yeah, probably 90. It might be around then, 93.
93 or so, yeah, because Fishbone was quite big 90s.
Just before that, I'm trying to remember where the Clash of the Titans tour happened. So that was the big 4. That was apart from Metallica, you had Slayer, Anthrax, Megadeth,
yeah.
And then
what were Megadeth
Suicidal Tendencies.
I'm not so sure about them.
I think they were the token next big act because Metallica probably just didn't agree to it. Because Metallica were probably becoming the monster.
That's too big.
It was just,
Was that Black Album was probably just about, or was it out? 92 was it, Black Album?
No, it was not at the time that Clash of the Titans.
Black Album come out?
Oh no, it probably was 92. When was Injustice Raw? That was 89.
Yeah, I think it was 91 then maybe. Black Album.
Yeah, it could have been. But I remember I wasn't there at the time, but can remember my friend Stephen Cording at school, who's the guy who's responsible for me getting into guitar. He was supposed to go to there was a few of us who got tickets to go to Clash of the Titans.
Where was it? Hammersmith?
No, I think it was Wembley. It was Wembley Arena.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And legend has it, because I wasn't there, but sadly, Stephen Cording is fine, but on just ahead of the gig, he was holding onto someone's car with his skateboard and being driven down the road.
Of course he was! Back to the Future Cording.
Yeah. And unfortunately, took a tumble and ended up in hospital. Hospitalised for it. And this was just ahead of the gig. And legend has it, because I wasn't there, that upon him regaining consciousness, the first thing he said was, "Slayer!" I really hope that's true.
Yeah, I hope that is true.
In fact, I'm going to ask you because I'm friends with him.
You should.
I will ask him if that happened. And I want him to lie to me and tell me that's what it is.
What's he doing now? Is he still playing?
No, he's not. He's not, but I've literally, I was having a chat with him like a couple of weeks on Facebook. He's up north somewhere. I think he's in Northumberland.
Right,
So,
okay.
And he was working for the NHS. So he's getting a gold star at the moment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think it's nice. That was the gigs that I was seeing at that age.
So what were Megadeth like? Do you remember? Mustaine was...
Yeah, Megadeth. Do you know what? I do remember what Megadeth was like because I remember there being like, and this is exciting when we were kids because we were just having to buy magazines. I was buying Kerrang every week.
Yeah.
And you were getting your information from kind of just waiting for some music journal to come out. And I remember getting a Kerrang just ahead of the Clash of the Titans tour, and then there was all this controversy about who was headlining, and Slayer were getting the top bill, but didn't mean they were headlining. It was just like a joint headline, but of course they were headlining, and it was like Slayer got it. But apparently there was a bit of needle with Dave Mustaine wanted to be the headliner and didn't get to do it. Anyway, he conceded gracefully and let Slayer kind of headline it. So Slayer were going to go on last. Well, I do remember that was the Rust in Peace lineup.
Oh my God.
The best.
No, well, I still remember you educating me with Megadeth in the car, in the bluey, purpley Golf that you had, Wolf of West London car. And you were like, oh yeah, Megadeth. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't really know that much about it. Because, like, metal and, like, anywhere near that, you know what I grew up with.
Yeah.
You know, I was kind of more funky rock.
You haven't crossed that threshold.
No, not really. Mm. And then you played me Rust in Peace.
Mm.
I think you played it only once or twice. And the sound system in that Golf, by the way, I have that good. Mark IV. I'm sorry. It's a solid sound. Like, you can crank it. Those speakers were great. You played that, like, pelting it out, and you were like, oh no, this bit. And that's when we were doing all of the early, like, Tomahawk stuff. Mm. And that was it was around that point you played me that. And then just after or just before, whatever it was, that's when it inspired. It inspired.
You had the light bulb moment. Well, that's the one to play you. Like, that's their best produced work.
I think we should play Rust in Peace tonight before we go home. Yeah. Or just a little bit of it.
Yeah, it's the best one. Well, I remember that lineup came out, so I can't remember all their names, unfortunately, but like Marty Friedman, I think he was the guitarist. Great guitarist. But they all came out one by one, so I think the drummer came out, and they were met to a massive roar, so like it was literally a jump up from the right, so it was like, ah! And then like Marty Friedman came, and he's got all the curly hair, looks fucking amazing, like glam 80s kind of hair, but I think that's his actual hair. And then Dave on the bass, I can't remember his name. I think there was 2 Daves in there. I might be wrong about that. Excuse me if you're a Megadeth fan.
Yeah.
He came out, and then they're just punching in on the stage in their positions, and then there's just this little tension, and then Dave Mustaine, he's got his white shirt on.
Of course he has.
He looks like New Romantic. He's got skinny jeans. And
he always looks a bit.
And he's got and his ginger curls are just like, and he swans on, and with his guitar, it's just a little too high, and like
yes.
And he swans on, and everyone's like roaring and screaming, and he just takes the slowest walk. And then he comes up to the mic, and he's in front of everyone, and everyone's like, and there's a little bit of a din. And then he goes, "You gotta fucking know who I am." That was his opening line.
Really?
Yeah, to Wembley Arena. And then they ended up playing, and then straight into Holy Balls, when he was just
oh my God.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I fictionalized that and just re-rendered.
No, I don't think you did.
I think that actually happened though. But, yeah, they played, and then Slayer came out, and it was just like, fuck me.
Oh no, I mean, that's just silly, isn't it? What a lineup, man.
I mean, I just...
So what order did it go in then? Was it
Suicidal Tendencies, of course.
What did you think of them? I still
huge,
not... Yeah, not a
They
fan.
were kind of cute.
Yeah. I'm
Like
not really a fan.
I really like. I mean, I didn't really know anything about them. I knew the
They've had some sick drummers over the years.
Send Me Your Money was their big hit around that time, and they played it at some point, and that was entertaining. That was when Robert Trujillo was in place.
Yeah.
And they were all right, and it was fine. I've subsequently heard interviews with the singer of Suicide Tendencies, the guy with the bandana, who seems like a sweetheart. He seems like a really cool guy. And then Slayer obviously just came on. I saw Slayer twice. That was the first time, and then I subsequently saw them again. I can't remember what. I remember what it was. It was the. It was the, what's that fucking album called? South of Heaven. The one after that. Fuck knows. The one after South of Heaven. And it starts with War Ensemble, and they came on. I think that was at Wembley Arena as well, and they ended up playing War Ensemble. I think it was their first opener, and it was the first track of the new album as well. So it opened, and it was fucking amazing. And then later on in the set, this guy's come out like a video director, and they were shooting the video for the War Ensemble, and then Tom Araya came on the mic, and he was just like, "Okay, guys, so we're going to shoot the video. You're all going to be in the video." So I'm like, "Yeah," he's like, so like. For the video, we're going to shoot it. We're just going to play back. We've got to play back against the track, and everyone was like, "Boo!" And then like they just had to have this big discussion. The director had to come out, and then like everyone was on stage, kind of talking about it because the crowd were like, "No, boo! You ain't doing no playback."
Play it live. Yeah.
And then eventually Tom Araya's like, "Oh, fuck it, we'll do it live." And then, so they ended up, they've ended up playing War Ensemble again. They've just played it live, and that video is apparently shot the night that I was there. And so when you look at War Ensemble, that's video footage from when I was there.
Oh wow!
And it was a fucking amazing gig. Like I remember, and Slayer like I've got a really strange relationship with Slayer because like I started being a bit. My relationship with Slayer started by me being a bit scared of them. Like I was only 16 when I got my first.
Of what?
I was probably 14 or 15. I got South of Heaven. That was my first Slayer tape album. And I got it on Stephen Collins' recommendation. There was another band I was listening to. And then I remember buying this tape and walking into Hayes Town and getting it from Our Price. I can't even remember what our record store was called. And I bought this thing on tape. And then I brought it home, and we only had one hi-fi in the living room, which was kind of the shared hi-fi, so that's where I had to listen to my stuff.
Really?
At that time. I did end up getting like a ghetto blaster for my room a couple of years later. But then I remember playing it downstairs while my mum and everyone was in the next room, and I remember playing South of Heaven, and then getting really nervous because like in the second verse there's bastard sons begat your cunting daughters. That was like the lyric, and I just remember like kind of like looking around and turning it down a bit just in case mum heard it. And then I just remember getting into the second or third song and then kind of looking at the sleeve again and seeing all these upside down crosses and just going, this I think there might be something bad going on and I'm not sure if I should be engaging with it. And I remember it sounding kind of evil, and it kind of creeped me out a bit. But I kind of stuck with it. And I think it was like once I saw them live, like I got into the album, I forced myself to get into Slayer. But then when I saw them live and just saw how potent that thing was, I couldn't even express how seriously cool it was. But I just knew that was a big deal. And then,
did you ever have that thing with Rage Against the Machine? Because I had that. I was scared of them because the words he just like the rhymes he was saying and the words
just
he was saying,
serious it was.
Like properly serious. But
I suppose there's such a big age gap between us. Like I was at a different age when I first experienced Rage.
So when did you were probably 17, 18 then?
No, that was probably 17. I remember 16. I remember that was a sixth form album.
Really?
The Rage album with
That
because I remember us
honestly,
talking about the sleeve.
So my sixth form album was when they did Battle of Los Angeles.
That's an amazing sixth form.
And then oh fuck! All my sixth form albums were that. OK Computer.
That's
97.
Yeah, that's my early 20s. I was out of school at that time.
Fuck,
That was my
man, those albums were those were seminal years. I'm worried now.
My sixth form album.
We're not going to have seminal years for any of the kids now. Like they're going to be like, oh yeah,
they will.
I really like that
But
YouTube thing.
It'll be Skrillex.
Fuck me.
No shit, not even Skrillex. That's probably
Not
when
even
you look like
Skrillex
a twat.
is probably cool. Yeah.
Skrillex is probably old school. But like my sixth form albums were Nirvana, Nevermind. That was
okay. Yeah.
Red Hot Chili Peppers, Blood Sugar Sex Magic.
Oh shit!
This was that.
No,
time.
that album was seminal for me because of the drum sound.
Yeah. It's very distinctive.
And that's a brick album, isn't it?
It is. But I've got to say, like, I love that album and I gladly enjoy it. But when I listen to it now, I know my complete enjoyment of it is pure nostalgia. And it's
especially the lyrics are fucked, man.
It's the only time I find the Red Hot Chili Peppers and any of that sound acceptable is listening to it on there. Like in Blood Sugar Sex Magic, I think it was like encapsulated.
The way it's mixed, man.
Brendan O'Brien.
Is it Brendan again, man?
Yeah.
Because he did Rage, he did like all those big albums.
Yeah. Well, this is it. I can't. What's the one after Battle of Los Angeles? There's
Renegades.
Is that the one with the star on it? No. Renegades is the fourth album.
Evil Empire. You're talking about.
Yeah, Evil Empire.
Yellow.
Like that album doesn't sound good. Like the
But he didn't do that, right?
I'm not sure he might have, but like I think there was a really bad choice. Like Zach De La Rocca. Is it Rocha or Rocca?
Rocca.
I think Zach recorded like cup held on the microphone. It sounds like that, and it doesn't sound good for it. And like,
but that album, I actually think. Do you know what? I mean, for me, it's Battle of Los Angeles, then Evil Empire, for me, and then Rage.
There's some great songs on Evil Empire.
Evil Empire, like they were going crazy. Like that Snake Charmer, Bulls on Parade is on that.
Yeah.
God, there's so many. That's probably my favourite of their tours when they did Evil Empire, because that was them like playing mid-sized venues.
I haven't even seen Rage Against the Machine live.
Really?
No, I didn't see them.
I saw the gig in not Hyde Park, Victoria, no.
Oh, the recent one.
Yeah, when they got the number one.
Yeah.
That was special.
Yeah.
And then me and Kelvin went to see them at Reading and knocked each other out. That was amazing as well. We headbutted each other in the mosh pit.
Jesus.
And just like went
wow.
like knocked each other out. It was one of the most amazing nights of my life. Honestly, me and Calvin was so euphoric.
You had concussion.
It was so good.
Yeah,
and I've like never had so many goosebumps of like nostalgia, but also, man, they can play. It was gutted this year that we couldn't go and see them, but
yeah, that's sad. COVID's just fucked up everyone's gigs for them.
Yeah, but do you know what? Actually, Ben said something really sweet to me today, because I was like, it's really sad, like we can't do all this shit again. He went, yeah, but what people need to do is just go and do something else for a little while and then come back to it. And I was like, it's so true. They can't play music right now. Just go away, do something else, and then come back.
Nice.
And I thought, oh, they're actually quite wise words from you.
And that's why
he's going to come down and do this podcast with us.
Well, that's why we're doing the podcast, I suppose. Like in absence, being able to play gigs is one way we can be present. And
but it's so true. Like, actually, just take it back to basics of we can't do that thing. Grow up a little bit. Go on with your life. Come back to it, because it will come back. We will be able to go and do this stuff again.
It will come back. It will come back by kind of solution or choice. People will kind of just decide it's time to go back and mitigate the risk. Like there's a bit of that happening already. People's behaviour, but yeah, I look forward to seeing a gig.
Yeah, I look forward to playing a gig.
I look forward to playing a gig.
Yeah.